Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. All my video lectures are mainly for educative purpose. They are very useful to fourth year students and also for their oral exams, theory exams, as well as this lecture will be also useful to first year, second year and third year. Some of the lectures will be very helpful to all students. In continuity with ECG series, today we are going to discuss on one very useful topic, that is ST segment elevation mimics, or we call STEMI mimics, or acute myocardial infarction mimics, meaning that person do not have any clinical and ECG evidence of acute MI, but ECG looks like acute MI, and there is no myocardial infarction in that particular patient. This type of ECG changes you will have to differentiate from classical STEMI, or we call as an acute myocardial infarction or ongoing myocardial ischemia. This is very important because STEMI mimics can be misdiagnosed as STEMI and wrong treatment can be started, which may be sometimes dangerous for the patient and or may be expensive for the patient, spending lot of money after that. Indirectly, if you diagnose STEMI as STEMI mimics, you miss STEMI, you give wrong diagnosis, wrong treatment, you neglect that particular person, and you can end up with a myocardial damage which can be lethal for that patient. So both way it is of importance. It is called STEMI mimics, or it is also called STEMIcs, ST elevation mimics, that is STEMIcs, short form. So it is always important that more you see, more you will come to know, and you always listen to some person, you listen to some video lectures, etc. You will come to know more and more, and if you know more and more, you will be able to pick up that from an 12 lead ECG, and you will be able to separate STEMI mimics from classical STEMI. So STEMI mimics is very important to differentiate from acute coronary syndrome, or we call as a STEMI or non-STEMI, or chronic coronary syndrome, where you get an STT changes, either ST segment elevation or ST segment depression with or without T wave changes, which is very important because it can end up with even acute damage to myocardium, which may lead to chronic ischemic groups, cardiomyopathy, cardiac arrhythmias, congestive heart failure, and even sometimes sudden cardiac death. So what exactly do you mean by STEMI mimics? ST elevation, which is not caused by an myocardial infarction, is known as a STEMI mimics. Indirectly, ECG looks like STEMI, but it is not because of acute MI. That's why it is said that it masks the other etiologies. So a classical example of STEMI mimics is if you get an ST elevation which with a concavity Here you can see this is convex. ST segment is convex. This is in favor of MI. While concavity, this concavity, this classical concave, if you draw a line from J point to the peak of T wave, and if you get a concave, it is more in favor of STEMI mimics. Even a horizontal line is also in favor of ischemic groups, that is called acute MI. But the concavity is more in favor of STEMI mimics. So always look for this morphology. So there is always a warning. The presence of STEMI does not rule out, a presence of STEMI mimics or STEMIcs does not rule out STEMI. If you suspect STEMI before the ECG, suspect STEMI after taking the ECG. So you should be aware of what are STEMI mimics, how they look like. You should be able to interpret from history and ECG together. So you have to differentiate ST elevation, which is because of acute myocardial infarction, from that it is not MI. So you have to answer yes or no. It cannot be maybe. You cannot say it may be. You have to answer either it is yes or it is no. And that is the importance of this particular lecture. So always look for a clinical picture or clinical scenario. Go for ECG. Look properly whether it is STEMI mimics or STEMI signs. Look for troponin, and you can take the advantage of echo, which will show you regional wall abnormality, motion abnormality. Because rapidly you diagnosed, you can prevent myocardial damage, you can preserve myocardium. So it is absolutely necessary that you diagnose STEMI from STEMI mimics, because if you diagnose that these ECG changes are because of MI, you can activate STEMI alert. So STEMI activation is necessary whenever you are sure of STEMI, and then after getting angiography, you can confirm that it is true STEMI. If it is not confirmed by CAT, then you can say that STEMI is cancelled. And if you are able to pick up STEMI mimics, you can cancel STEMI before even a CAT is advised. And if before a STEMI activation, you are able to say that there is no requirement of STEMI activation, you can evaluate chest pain by differential diagnosis, history, ECG interpretation, etc. You can prevent costlier investigation and complication of those investigations. Hence it is said that you should be very quick to differentiate STEMI from STEMI mimics. So if you pick up that STEMI from STEMI mimics, you will prevent certain things like this. So don't be in a hurry, but you have to be quick. And incorrectly identification of STEMI mimics as STEMI leads to an inappropriate management of the patient and use of system resources. And during that inappropriate management, you can end up with complications. So it is utmost importance to differentiate between STEMI mimics and STEMI. So normally we always say that ST segment may be normal, may be elevated, may be depressed. But all ST segment elevation are not always STEMI. You have to utilize clinical picture and then utilize ECG interpretation. If there is an ST depression, it can be stable angina, unstable angina, non-STEMI. But if there is an ST elevation, you will have to differentiate by symptom signs, troponin, etc. And in presence of acute MI, you can have an ST depression as a reciprocal changes of STEMI. Very, very important clue. So if you get an ST depression which is not STEMI and which is mimics, maybe in LVH, RVH, bundle branch block, or maybe important finding like reciprocal changes of acute MI, that is STEMI, and that can be of importance, as well as reciprocal changes are very useful to identify the clinical site or anatomical area, and you can also find out the culprit vessel. ST elevation will be classical in case of a STEMI and variant angina, which can be identified by symptom, clinical finding, and troponin. In variant angina, it is a transient ST segment elevation, usually without troponin positive. While in case of a STEMI, there will be serial changes which will be there. We call dynamic changes will be there. Initially, you will have a tall T wave followed by ST segment elevation, Q wave appearance, ST segment coming down, T wave inverted, and when it is held, it will be Q wave with ST segment isoelectric and T wave will be upright. If revascularization is done, then Q wave will not appear, everything else will remain same, but changes will be little earlier. As routine to identify ST segment elevation MI, if we get in lead 2, lead 3 AVF, it is clear cut in favor of inferior wall MI, and along with that changes, if we get the changes like ST depression in V1, V2, V3, R wave taller than S wave, and if there is a upright tall T wave, it will suggest posterior wall MI. If it is combined with L2, L3 AVF changes, it will be inferior posterior wall. But if it is pure changes only in V1, V2, which are considered as a reciprocal changes, and there is an ST elevation in V7, V8, V9, and there are no ST changes in lead 2, lead 3 AVF, it will be true posterior wall MI. In case of a RVMI, along with L2, L3 AVF changes, if you get changes in V1 lead, ST elevation, it will be suggestive of RVMI, and in the presence of RVMI, if you take V3R, V4R, V5R, V6R, there will be ST segment elevation. It will be more prominent in V4R. So V4R becomes the most important lead to confirm the diagnosis of RVMI. Along with V1 ST segment elevation, you can have an ST depression in V2 lead, which will signify that there is counter change of RVMI or reciprocal change of RVMI. You can have an ST segment elevation in AVR, and if there is an ST segment elevation in V1 is less than AVR, again you can suspect RVMI or left main coronary artery occlusion. If there is an ST segment changes in V4, V5, V6 along with lead 1 AVL and L2, L3 AVF, it will be in favor of inferior lateral wall ischemia. So if you get R wave taller than S wave in V1, always suspect RVMI or true posterior wall MI. And if there is an ST depression in V1, V2, it is in favor of a true posterior wall MI, and in that you will have a ST segment depression, R wave taller than S wave, and tall T wave. While in a RVMI, in V1 you will have a ST segment elevation. In Brugada, you will have a ST segment curved down, down sloping with T wave inversion, which will be characteristic in case of a V1, V2. And whenever you get curved ST segment, it is called Brugada type 1. And if you get a saddle type of ST segment changes, It is type 2 and type 3. If you got an ST elevation in V1 to V6, and you might have a reciprocal changes in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF, this will be anterior wall. Now if we get in V1, V2, it is septal. If it is in V3, V4, it is anterior. And if it is from V1 to V4, anteroseptal. If it is in V5, V6, lateral. If it is right from V1 to V6, extensive anterior. So if depending upon the number of lead involves, accordingly the terminology is being utilized. And if there is an ST elevation in V5, V6 with L2, L3 AVF, it is inferolateral. And if there is an ST depression in V1, V2, we have already mentioned, with tall T wave and R wave taller than S wave, it will be true post-oval MI, because this will be reciprocal changes of true post-oval MI. And there will be ST elevation in V7, V8, V9. And if there is an ST elevation in AVR more than ST elevation in V1 with multiple leads showing you ST depression, it will be left main coronary artery occlusion or sometime in proximal LAD occlusion. So it can be ST elevation in AVR will be proximal LAD, triple vessel disease or LMC occlusion. And ST elevation in AVR with multiple ST depression in multiple leads, LMC occlusion. And ST depression in AVR will be seen in a distal LAD. And upright T wave in V1 only suggest left main coronary artery occlusion. These are all included in STEMI equivalence. And ST elevation in AVL only will be in favor of inferior STEMI. And ST elevation in lid 1 and AVL will be in favor of high lateral wall MI. As routine we always say, if there is an ischemia, means there is a lack of blood supply, oxygen demand is more, supply is less, we'll start getting ST depression, very commonly seen in V1, that is anterior wall, because of involvement of the LAD. You will have a ST depression and you might have T wave inverted or maybe normal, and by and large during ischemia we don't get any Q wave appearance. As further ischemia persists, it will now start producing damage to myocardium. We'll start getting ST elevation. Initially you might have upright tall T wave, which will be broad base, asymmetrical, tented, and it will be with narrow QRS complex, and there will be dynamic changes, means that tall T wave will be followed by ST segment elevation, and that ST elevation may be more than 2 mm in more than 2 contiguous leads, particularly in V2, V3, while more than 1 mm in V4, V5, V6, and 1 mm in limb leads will be going in favor of acute injury, or we call acute MI, where you may get beginning of a Q wave or you may not get beginning of a Q wave. But once there is a necrosis of the tissue, you will have a appearance of a Q wave with ST elevation and T wave inversion. So ST elevation will be there with Q wave appearance, and in case of a non-STEMI, you will have a ST depression, no appearance of Q wave, and there will be inverted T wave or normal T wave, or it may be upright and particularly biphasic in nature. And if it is inverted, good number of time it is deep symmetrical T wave inversion. And Q wave appearance will be there in a case of a classical STEMI, or we call it a transmural MI, or we call it Q wave MI, and particularly if there is no complete revascularization done, or there is a failure of revascularization, and if the person has not undergone any revascularization, there will be appearance of a Q wave in classical stent. This already we have uttered: V1, V2 septal, V3, V4 anterior, V5, V6 lateral, and in lateral we will not have any reciprocal changes. But in case of a septal and anterior, we will have a changes in posterior lead. This is V7, V8, V9. Indirectly, we never take this lead in a 12 lead ECG. So we don't see reciprocal changes. But if you take V7, V8, V9, you will see reciprocal changes. In high lateral, it will be in an inferior wall, reciprocal changes. But in high lateral, there will be ST elevation only in lead 1 and AVL. While in inferior, opposite lead, reciprocal changes will be in lead 1 and AVL. So inferior wall is exactly reciprocal to high lateral. In a right ventricular, there will be ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 AVF. Lead 3 will be taller than lead 2, and you will get ST elevation in V4R. But along with lead 2, lead 3 AVF, there will be ST elevation in V1, which will be suspecting that possibility of RVMI. You take V4R, and if in a V4R you get an ST elevation and you get an ST depression in a reciprocal lead, that is V2, it is in favor of a RVMI, and the artery involved will be right circumflex artery. In a classical true posterior wall MI, you will have a ST depression, which is a reciprocal changes in V1 to V3, and you will have a tall R wave or R wave taller than S wave with upright T wave, and you will have V7, V8, V9 will show you ST segment elevation. V7 is posterior axillary line. V8 is below the scapula in the same horizontal plane, that is fifth intercostal space, and paraspinal area is V9 in the same horizontal plane, that is fifth intercostal space. While if you get ST elevation in AVR, which is taller than V1, and there is an generalized ST depression in multiple leads, it will be in favor of a left main coronary artery occlusion, left main stem coronary artery occlusion. These are all the important things. So always consider acute MI, particularly if the person has got a classical history, ST elevation, troponin positive, dynamic changes, hyperacute T wave, then you start getting an ST elevation followed by ST depression, Q wave appearance, T wave inversion, and then when it is completely healed, only Q wave, ST isoelectric, and T wave becomes upright. Very, very classical. But also you should keep it in mind, good number of times, lead replacement becomes one of the cause of pseudo MI, or we call as a false ST segment elevation. Even if there is a movement of the patient arm or electrodes, that also can produce a false pattern, or we call artifacts. And if there is no proper skin preparation also, that can also produce artifact which can mimic like acute MI. You should keep it in mind. These are all the other conditions which can mimic ST elevation, like STEMI, we call STEMIcs, or ST elevation mimics, like hyperkalemia, LBBB, even RBBB sometime, early repolarization, LVH, left ventricular aneurysm, Brugada, pericarditis, Osborne wave, Prinzmetal angina. These are some of the conditions you must keep it in mind, out of which the Prinzmetal angina is vasospasm of the artery, and that will produce ST segment elevation, which will be temporary. As soon as the spasm is relieved, ST segment will be isoelectric, T wave will be upright, and there will be by and large no troponin elevation. So electrolyte imbalance, particularly hyperkalemia, LBBB, early repolarization, it is remembered as elevation. Here also you can see that elevation. Some they mention different words. E for electrolyte is common, L for left bundle branch block, E for early repolarization, V for LVH, A for aneurysm, T for pericarditis tamponades, that is pericardiocentesis. Here it is mentioned Thailand Brugada syndrome. I for pericarditis, while here it is injury and contusion. O for Osborne wave, this is also Osborne wave. N for non-occlusive vasospasm, that is what we call as classical variant angina. Out of all these causes, the most common which mimics is pericarditis, myocarditis, Takotsubo, early repolarization and chronic LBPB. You should keep this thing in mind. These are the most common. Out of which again, if you further pick up LVH, LBBB and benign early repolarization. So that should be kept in mind. And don't forget pericarditis. But hyperkalemia, hypothermia, Brugada, LV aneurysm, Prinzmetal angina should not be forgotten. We'll be going through all those. There are some additional, we have already mentioned pericarditis, benign early LVH, LBBB, left bundle branch block, and if there is an MI, you should use Segurba's criteria or modified criteria. These are some of the common, we call most common. Also you get an ST elevation which will give you a false interpretation of an acute MI, we call STEMI mimics. In case of a pacemaker complex, LV aneurysm, Brugada, hyperkalemia, hypothermia, intracranial hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, or even in case of a raised intracranial pressure, Prinzmetal angina, post cardioversion. So we'll be going through all those. So these are some of the common pericarditis, myocarditis, LBBB, then early repolarization. This comes topmost on the list. Then don't forget LV aneurysm, Brugada, hyperkalemia, hypothermia, Takotsubo. This is ST elevation. This is also ST elevation. How you make out is from J point. So if there is a J point elevation from an isoelectric line, it is ST elevation. And if it is concave, it is more in favor of STEMI mimics. And if it is convex or a flat or a horizontal, it is in favor of what we call as MI. So flat, convex is in favor of acute MI, and they are always bad. So we'll be beginning with one by one. First is LVH, then we'll go to LBBB, pericarditis group, hyperkalemia group, aneurysm. Then you have to know what is acute MI and Brugada and others. So in a left ventricular hypertrophy, usually initial upsloping of the elevated ST segment is concave. So concave elevation in LVH is almost in favor of an LVH. So first criteria is there should be an LVH criteria, or we call it an amplitude voltage criteria of LVH should be fulfilled. And ST elevation is by and large concave, maybe flat, very occasionally it is convex. And if it is convex, it is usually in favor of acute coronary syndrome rather than pure LVH. T wave is usually asymmetrical, while symmetrical T wave is again more in favor of STEMI groups or ischemic heart disease group. So STEMI becomes more difficult, but it is not impossible to identify in presence of LVH. So you must utilize this, that if there is a convex ST segment elevation in presence of an LVH criteria, you must suspect STEMI or acute coronary syndrome. And if there is a symmetrical T wave changes, by and large inverted, it will be in favor of acute ischemia, or we call as ongoing ischemia. So voltage criteria wise, S wave in V1 and R wave in V5, V6 should be more than 35. If that is there, look in AVL. If in AVL you get an ST segment more than 11, again it is strongly in favor of LVH. Now look for the strain pattern. If there is an ST depression with a T wave inversion in V5, V6, it is in favor of an LVH. Now if you get an asymmetrical T wave inversion, it is in favor of an LVH. And if there is a symmetrical T wave inversion with ST segment elevation and which is little convex, and if there is an ST segment depression with deep symmetrical T wave inversion, it will be in favor of STEMI, or we call ongoing ischemia. So this is isoelectric line. You can see this is ST depression with asymmetrical T wave inversion. This limb is longer, this is shorter. So this is asymmetrical, this will be LVH with strain. And if you look in V1, V2, there is an ST elevation with asymmetrical upright T wave. This is in favor of LVH with strain pattern. So LVH with strain pattern in V1 to V3, there will be ST elevation with T wave upright, while in V4, V5, V6, it will be ST depression with T wave inverted. So always keep it in mind. Asymmetrical T wave inversion in V4, V5, V6 with ST depression, more in favor of strain. And if there is an ST elevation 1 millimeter but less than 2 millimeter, and there is asymmetrical upright T wave, it is in favor of LVH with strain. And LVH criteria should be fulfilled. So this shows you classical in lead 1 AVL. You can see in V5, V6 there is V4, V5, V6. You can see there is an ST depression with asymmetrical T wave, asymmetrical T wave inversion, and concave ST segment elevation. If it is seen in V1, V2, you can see this is more concave. So that will be in favor of LVH with strain pattern. Again you can see this is concave, and here it is ST segment depression with asymmetrical T wave inversion, and this is also ST segment concave with T wave upright, which is asymmetrical. So do look for this sign, and there is a classical LVH criteria. Even if you see in a lead V5, V6 only, this particular segment right from here 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, it is more than 25, almost nearly 30. So this is straightforward. So this is LVH, this is high left ventricular voltage, and this is left bundle branch block. So try to look for that, and if it is a broad complex, it is in favor of a left bundle branch block. So if you want to rule out left bundle branch block, first criteria is QRS complex should be broad more than 0.12 second. In particularly in V1. Also you will see that broad QRS complex in lead 1, AVL and V5, V6. In lead 1, AVL, V5, V6, you will see RS, R dash pattern. Second R wave is usually taller than first R wave. There will be absence of Q wave in lead 1, AVL and V5, V6. One of the important clue. And if there is an appearance of Q wave in this leads, that is lead 1, AVL and V5, V6, it is abnormal. And by and large, the R wave peak will be little bit prolonged, that is more than 60 seconds in V5, V6. These are some of the criteria of left bundle branch block. And in V1, you will get a deep S wave. So this is, now if a person has come to you with a history of shortness of breath, chest pain, and if you get left bundle branch block, you will have to apply now Segor-Bessa criteria, that ST elevation in V5, V6. Now here there is no ST elevation, or we call as a ST depression in V1, V2 or V3, we call concordant ST depression in V1, V2, V3 more than 1 millimeter, it will be 3 points. And ST elevation in V5, V6, concordant ST elevation 5 points. 3 points is sufficient. But third criteria, that is criteria C, where you get a discordant ST segment changes either in limb leads or in chest leads. In chest leads, if in V1, V2, V3, if there is an ST elevation more than 5 millimeter, this is old Sagorbasa criteria. Modified Smith criteria suggests that if that is elevated, 25% of preceding S wave will be in favor of acute MI or we call ongoing MI. So do look for that. Do look for that. So this is acute MI with LBBB because there is what we call as a ST segment elevation more than 25% of previous preceding S wave. So that goes straightforward in favor of acute MI in presence of bundle branch block. Again, you can look for discordant ST segment. These are discordant ST segment, discordant ST segment, discordant ST segments. This will be clear-cut left bundle branch block. You will have to rule out by using Sagorbasa criteria whether there is MI or not. There is an ST segment elevation. So in presence of left bundle branch block, use other criteria also. If person is unstable, if person is having a clinical suspicion of an acute MI by classical chest pain, positive biomarker, abnormal echo, clinically is unstable, you should suspect acute MI. And then you utilize Sagorbasa criteria A, B or C. A is 5 points, B is 3 points. If these two are there, you don't have to go for the third criteria. So if there is an concordant ST segment elevation in V5, V6, straightforward 5 points. Concordant ST depression in V1, V2, V3, 3 points, straightforward in favor. And then you can utilize what we call is a modified Smith's criteria or modified Smith-Sagorbasa criteria or Sagorbasa-Smith criteria. You can utilize that criteria. So I'll be going little faster. This is original Sagorbasa criteria. We already mentioned strongest predictor is 5 points, that is ST elevation more than 1 millimeter in concordant ST segment, any leads, whether it is a chest lead or a limb leads. ST segment depression more than 1 millimeter in chest leads, that is V1, V2, V3, 3 points. And if there is an ST elevation in any leads, but discordant ST elevation, it is the weakest predictor because it gives only 2 points. But you require a 3 points because minimum 3 points is 90% specificity, but sensitivity is only 36%. Hence, modified criteria came. So lead, any leads, criteria A. Criteria B, again it will be 3 points, that is concordant ST segment depression, base seen in V1, V2, V3. And criteria C, again in any lead, maybe in V1, V2, V3, that is excessive discordant. And this criteria is also useful in presence of left bundle branch block, also in presence of right bundle branch block. You can utilize this criteria. And pace rhythm, by and large we utilize in LBBB and pace rhythm. Also in presence of RBBB, if there is an ST elevation which is concordant, it is in straightforward in favor of acute MI. So in a modified criteria, excessive discordant means more than 25% of preceding S wave, ST elevation or ST depression. Discordant 2 preceding S wave will be straightforward in favor of ongoing ischemia or acute MI. So classical history, troponin positive, hemodynamically is unstable, echo showing you regional wall motion abnormality, reduced ejection fractions, dynamic changes in serial ECG, etc. is very, very useful. You can utilize Saccaro-Bassa criteria, modified Saccaro-Bassa criteria, Cabrera sign, Chapman sign. And this will suggest, if these are in favor, it will suggest STEMI or ongoing myocardial ischemia in presence of left bundle branch block. Very, very important. We already discussed that Cabrera criteria or Cabrera sign is in S wave, ascending limb. If there is a notch which is seen, it will be in favor of an ongoing ischemia. And if in lead 1 and V6 in a R wave, ascending limb, if you get a notch, it is Chapman sign. So this is those modified Saccaro-Bassa criteria. More than 2.5, 0.25 will be straightforward in favor of class 3. Cabrera sign, you will see a notch on ascending limb of S wave, that is Cabrera sign. And Chapman sign, you can see even in a pace rhythm, Cabrera sign, ascending limb of S wave. And when you get in lead 1 and V6 or lead 1 AVL and V6, if you get a notch on the ascending limb of R wave, it is Chapman sign. In acute RBBB, we already mentioned that if you get an ST elevation, you can see here there is an ST elevation, clear cut, V2, V3, clearly you can identify. This will suggest that person is having acute MI. So anterior septal MI in presence of RBBB, this is again V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, almost even in V6. This is extensive anterior wall MI. In a presence of pace rhythm, we have already shown you Cabrera sign. So clinical presentation, and if there is signs like Cabrera signs or a Chapman sign, or there is an ST segment elevation, it will be in favor of an ongoing ischemia or acute MI. Now if you want to have more clarity, pacemaker temporarily is turned off by programmer, and then you look at the ECG, and in that ECG, if you see a classical ST elevation more than 2 millimeter in V2, V3 and more than 1 millimeter in V4, V5, V6 or in a limblets, it will be in favor of acute MI, and it should be minimum in 2 consecutive leads. So this is pacemaker spike, and you got a broad QRS with little ST segment elevation. But if you get excessive ST segment elevation, you can see clearly, and this is excessive ST segment depression. This ST segment depression will be posterior wall. This lead 2, lead 3 AVF ST segment elevation will be inferior wall. So this is inferior posterior in presence of pacemaker ventricular rhythm. It is a ventricular pacing. Again, you can see there is an ST elevation in V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, almost even in V6. And there is a ST segment depression in lead 2, 3 and AVF. This will be reciprocal changes. Lead 1, AVL and V1 to V6, extensive anterior wall. So it will be extensive anterior wall in presence of pace rhythm. Again, you can see here, in presence of pace rhythm, you can see pacemaker complexes. And in presence of that, V3, V4, V5, there is an ST segment elevation. Even in V6. While in case of a lead 2, 3 and AVF, there is an ST depression. Lead 1, AVL, ST segment elevation. So extensive anterior wall, almost extensive anterior wall infarction and reciprocal changes. And you can clearly see a pacemaker complex. Here, you can see a pacemaker complex. You can see here also. So concordant ST segment elevation in direction of QRS complex in V4, V5, or V5, V6, and discordant ST segment elevation you can see in this will be V3, V4, lead 1, AVL. Here again you can see a pacemaker complex, ST elevation in lead 2, lead 3 AVF, classical inferior wall MI, plus you got a tall T wave in V2, V3, and there is an ST elevation. If you can see clearly, ST elevation, this is S wave, and there is an ST elevation. Concordant in V4, V5, V6. So this will be lateral wall, inferior wall, and almost we have got a tall T wave with, you can see there is an ST elevation. So almost extensive anterior with inferior. So we have got V4, V5, V6, and there is an ST elevation also in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. And you got a absolutely markedly tall T wave in V2, V3. Classical. Almost going for extensive anterior wall. Now we come to the second part, that is we call the J point elevation, which you will see in early repolarization, acute pericarditis, hypothermia where you will get Osborn wave, or it is also described as a camel hump sign, Brugada syndrome, hypercalcemia, etc. Also don't forget you get J point elevation in STEMI and J point depression in non-STEMI. So clinical features of early repolarization, classical features is elevated ST segment at J point, concave with upright T wave, distinct notch or a slurred downgoing R wave or downstroke of R wave, classically seen in V2, V5, V2 to V5, may be seen in inferior leads also. When you see in an inferior lead, it is usually going for class 2 and class 3. Usually in class 2, you get inferior and inferolateral, while in class 3, which is vulnerable, will get in inferior lateral as well as right side precordial lead, that is V2, V3. There will be no reciprocal ST changes or what we call as a ST depression. All these criteria together will be in favor of early repolarization. So ST elevation, PR depression is absent, which will rule out pericarditis. T wave is tall. ST segment to T wave ratio will be less than 0.25. That we call notch is described as a fish hook appearance. So notch J point is fish hook appearance. Concave ST segment elevation. In chest lead, there will be R wave progression will be preserved. Very important clue, that is there will be a short QT interval and there will be no reciprocal changes. And this will be fish-hook pattern is very commonly present in V4. So if you want to look, by and large, look in a chest slits, it will be very commonly seen. And hemodynamically, person will be stable. And if you take and repeat ECG, there is no dynamic changes. This is very important. Another important clue in a early repolarization, usually person will have a bradycardia. And if there is an tachycardia, early repolarization signs will disappear. So ST segment elevation less than 2 millimeter, concavity, notch or slurred terminal QRS. That notch is also given a name, fish hook appearance, seen in V2 to V5. That notch is more commonly prominent seen in V4 lead. You will have a concordant T wave, upright and tall. This will be seen in a V2 to V5 and may be seen also in an inferior lead. We have already mentioned that in class 2 and class 3, you will see in an inferior and precordial leads. Person is usually stable and there are no dynamic changes in ECG when you repeat the ECG. So repeating again, changes you will see in V2 to V5, concave or we call smiley. There will be notching or fish hook appearance, and this will be very typically seen in a chest slits, more prominent. It will be more commonly seen in V3, V4. Prominent asymmetrical T wave, concordant with QRS complex. It will be the fourth point. Magnitude of ST elevation will be less than 25% of T wave, or we call preceding S wave. So magnitude, sorry, not that will be for what we call as this thing. Sorry, that will be absolutely wrong. So ST segment elevation will be less than 25% of the T wave. So this ST segment elevation will be less than 25% of the amplitude of T wave, and that will be in favor of what we call as early repolarization. And there will be no reciprocal ST depression suggestive of a STEMI, except in AVR you might have an ST depression. So exception is in AVR you will have a ST depression. So fish hook, J point notching, widespread changes right from V2 to V5. Very rarely you will see in isolated limbs. Prominent asymmetrical tall T wave in a concordant to QRS complex, and degree of ST elevation to T wave will be less than 0.25. So J point concave ST segment elevation in V2 to V5 less than 2 millimeter, and large symmetrical concordant T wave in V2 to V5. It is very common in a younger age group, very rarely after 70 years age. It is very frequently present, almost in 50%, and they are at risk of acute coronary when they present with the chest pain, particularly class 2 and class 3 variety. ST elevation is always less than 2 millimeter. In precordial lead and 0.5 millimeter in limb leads. Although precordial lead ST elevation may be up to 5 millimeter in some instances. No reciprocal changes except in AVR. And BER changes are seen with a bradycardia, and they will become less if there is a tachycardia or induced tachycardia. And ST changes are relatively stable over a period of time, means no progression in serial ECG, or we call dynamic changes are absent. So dynamic changes are seen more in STEMI. You can see in a pericarditis. In STEMI, it will be in a period of hours and days. While in a pericarditis, it will be over a period of days and weeks. While in case of a early repolarization, it will be static. And usually it will disappear only with tachycardia or on stress ECG, or if you give atropine, which will induce tachycardia, or while doing TMT, or if you give potassium. Usually potassium is not given to demonstrate that findings. So ST changes are stable over a period of time. No dynamic changes will be in favor of early repolarization pattern. So this is a notch which you can see very clearly. This is J point notch, and this is slurred wave. So R wave has become slurred, and this is a J point. So that is in favor of early repolarization. So early repolarization, again repeating, widespread right from V2 to V5. ST elevation is less than 2 millimeter. Notch is present, or we call fish hook appearance, most prominent in V4. T wave morphology is slight asymmetry, tall T wave, and that T wave is taller in concordant with V4, V5, V6. So we indirectly say right from V2 to V6, and ST elevation will be less than 25% of upright T wave. And there is an absence of PR depression, which will rule out from pericarditis, and fish hook appearance. So type 1, usually it is present in a lateral lead, that is we usually say that V4, V5, V6. If it is present in inferior and lateral, so we call inferior and inferolateral, it will be with a moderate risk, and there will be occasional history of VTVF. While in case of if a person has got in inferior plus lateral plus right precordial lead, particularly V2, V3, it is having a high risk. And in case of a Brugada, it is called type 4, where you get in V1, V2 curved up ST segment depression, down sloping with T wave inversion. And if it is horizontal with saddle appearance, it is Brugada type B and C. So difference between STEMI and early repolarization. STEMI is localized in a distribution of regions, or we call consecutive or conjugate or consecutive leads or contiguous leads, while early repolarization is in multiple leads, more common in a precordial leads, but may affect the inferolateral leads also. And in a precordial lead, right from V2 to V5, there are no reciprocal changes, while in STEMI there are always reciprocal changes in opposite leads. There will be hyperacute or biphasic or deep symmetrical T wave inversion, while here it will be concordant T wave elevation and will be relatively tall. There will be dynamic changes over a period of hours, while in early repolarization usually it is static. So in a serial ECG you don't get extension of T wave changes, and in a STEMI there is no J point notch, or there is no notch at the J point, while in case of early repolarization there is a notch which is we describe as a fish hook appearance, or some people utilize the word hat hook appearance, etc. So these are the minor difference. The difference between pericarditis and early repolarization. Most important part in a pericarditis, there will be PR depression. It will be opposite of ST segment elevation. So if there is an ST segment elevation, PR will be depressed. And in AVR, the PR segment will be elevated and ST segment will be depressed. Very peculiar. And the ratio of ST segment to T wave will be more than 0.25, meaning ST segment is more elevated as compared to T wave. So ST segment will be more elevated as compared to pericarditis. So that is the most important point. While in case of early repolarization, there will be no PR depression. It will be limited to precordial leads. in a early repolarization right from V2 to V5, while in a pericarditis it will be multiple leads. Usually in a early repolarization it will be totally static. We don't come across a PR depression, and early repolarization you will have a strong family history. Person may develop VTVF, particularly in type 2 and type 3 variety, and type 4 variety is a Brugada. While in pericarditis, person will have a tachycardia, fever, chest pain, which will be suggestive of what we call as person will have pericardial chest pain because of pericarditis, acute pericarditis, and the most common cause is viral fever, and that will produce what we mention as ST segment elevation with PR segment depression. So this is very characteristic, and person will have a fever history. So pericarditis, if you want to differentiate from STEMI, that consider the patient history, very important. Global ST elevation, PR depression, and there is what is called as from T to P, TP segment. It will be down sloping, and that is called Spodek sign. While in case of an acute MI, you will have a convex ST segment elevation, while in case of a pericarditis it will be concave and it will be present in multiple leads, while in a case of a suspected MI it will be in a contiguous leads or consecutive leads, minimum 2 leads, and there will be presence of reciprocal changes. There will be no PR depression, there will be no Spodek signs. So this will be characteristic, and additionally we have already mentioned that in presence of an acute MI, troponin positive, classical history, hemodynamically unstable, and person on an echo will show you regional wall motion abnormality, will be in favor of what we call as acute MI. So now if you look here, there is an ST segment elevation. If you look properly in V4, V5, V6, you can see a notch, fish hook appearance. Also in lead 2, lead 3, there is an fish hook appearance. So this will straightforward go in favor of a benign early repolarization. This is of a pericarditis. You can see a concave ST segment elevation, lead 1, AVL, lead 1, lead 2, AVL, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. You can see in a V5, V6, there is an fish hook appearance. Now, if you look properly, this is in a multiple leads plus always look in AVR. And in AVR, if you see PR segment up going, up sloping, and ST segment depression, straightforward in favor of pericarditis. While in a limb leads, if you see that PR segment is down going, down sloping, and Spodek sign, that is T to P, will be down going. So we have got one more ECG. From T to P, if you draw, that will be down going. So if you draw from that, that will be, we have got that particular. You can see again concave, small notch. So widespread concave elevation, no reciprocal changes, but there is a reciprocal PR segment and ST depression with PR elevation in AVR. There is an ST depression and PR elevation that is given a name knuckle sign. If you get this, straightforward it is in favor of a pericarditis. Have a pause, look properly. Here there is another sign. You can see that this is a knuckle sign. PR segment upgoing, ST segment depression. Clear? While in limb leads, PR segment is downgoing and there is a notch. That is ST segment elevation with a notch. This is again in favor of pericarditis. We call concordant PR segment and ST segment. Again you can see PR is going down, ST segment is elevated. PR is going up, ST segment depression. And multiple leads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, almost 9 leads. And here we have got an ST depression in AVR. So if you see that such changes always goes in favor of an acute pericarditis. Multiple leads. So pericarditis can occur at any age. History of fever. Usually there will be tachycardia. Friction rub will be audible. On echo you can get inflammation of pericardium with effusion. Persistent chest pain with presence of friction rub is a characteristic. Does not have typical evaluation of ECG changes like acute MI, but there will be changes over a period of days and weeks. We call stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 and stage 4. Biomarkers may be elevated sometimes because of associated myocarditis, may be elevated. And once the person develops pericardial effusion, ECG will be low voltage, and in case of a massive pericardial effusion, you might have electrical alternance. So ST elevation, which is concave, while in case of a MI it is convex or flat. ST elevation in pericarditis is diffuse, while in case of a MI is territorial, means in a contiguous leads. PR depression is characteristic of pericarditis, while it is not present in case of a acute MI. And particularly PR depression will be there in a limb leads and chest leads, while in case of AVR it will be upgoing, PR will be upgoing, and there will be ST depression in the opposite direction of ST. Q wave will be seen very frequently in acute MI, while Q wave will not be seen in a pericarditis. T wave inversion in pericarditis occurs only after ST gets normalized, while T wave inversion in STEMI very frequently is coexisting. It is one of the typical findings of STEMI. And T wave inversion will be after the stage 3, while in case of stage 1 and stage 2, T wave will be upright. In stage 3, T wave will be inverted. So T wave inversion in pericarditis will be once the person ST segment becomes isoelectric, that will be in a stage 3. We call as a chronic pericarditis. So widespread ST segment elevation, concave elevation, right from V2 to V6, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, AVL, AVF, and in AVR there will be ST depression. In AVR there will be reciprocal changes, that is ST depression with PR elevation, while in a limb leads you will have a PR depression and ST elevation. This is in AVR it is called knuckle sign, while in case of other it is a PR segment depression with ST segment elevation. And downgoing TP segment, T to P, if you draw right from TP segments, this is, you can see that in AVR the PR segment is elevated and ST segment is depressed, while here PR segment is down and ST segment is elevated. This will be in chest leads and limb leads, well this will be seen only in AVR, and invariably person will have a tachycardia, while in case of a early repolarization it will be usually bradycardia. So putting all together, spodic sign will be also positive in case of acute pericarditis. We'll be showing you one way of drawing that. So in AVR and V1, usually there will be ST segment depression with PR segment elevation, but more classical seen in AVR. While in case of what we call as limb leads and chest lead, PR segment will be depressed and ST segment will be elevated. All other things we already discussed. Once a person develops a pericardial effusion, low voltage and electrical alternance will be more common. So in AVR, PR segment elevation, ST segment depression. While in case of other leads, you will have a PR segment down going and ST segment will be elevated. If you see here, stage 3 T wave inversion, while in stage 1 and stage 2 T wave is upright. In stage 1, ST segment elevation, PR segment down going and ST segment is concave, and you might have a fish hook appearance at J point. Typically PR elevation, ST segment down, knuckle sign. Here PR down, ST segment elevation in limb leads. So widespread PR depression in multiple leads, that is lead 1, lead 2, AVL, then V2 to V6, and in AVR reciprocal ST depression with PR elevation, very classical. This is PR depression with ST elevation. And sporadic sign, if you draw from J point a horizontal line, it will be down sloping. So it is usually we call as TP segment. If you draw TP segment, ideally it should be from J to P. So down sloping TP segment. It is usually utilized the word down sloping TP segment. It is sporadic sign. It favors pericarditis. There is one more sign which is called Mattu artist sign, which favors acute MI. So if you get R wave, if you draw the line here, now if you have got an ST segment above this line, it is favoring pericarditis. But if you see here, abrupt change from R to T, see from here the ST segment has gone up suddenly, while here from this J point there is an ST segment and then there is a T wave changes. So if there is an abrupt change from R to T, so it is called Mattu's R to T sign. So there is an abrupt ST segment elevation from R wave, that is more in favor of acute MI, while if there is a gradual change, it is more in favor of pericarditis. This is myocarditis, where you can see widespread ST segment elevation like an STEMI. Like STEMI, you can have even biomarkers being elevated, but clinical history will help you out. Fever, tachycardia, shortness of breath, and as soon as the myocarditis is controlled, all changes will regress back. That will be more in favor of myocarditis, while classical chest pain, Levine sign, prostration, ST segment elevation with gradual dynamic changes with biomarkers positive, Q wave appearance will be more in favor of STEMI. And in myocarditis, you will see normal angiography, but widespread global hypokinesia will be very peculiar on echo. So coronary angio normal with widespread hypokinesia will be in favor of myocarditis, while regional wall akinesia or hypokinesia with coronary angiography showing you occlusion will be more in favor of STEMI. So ECG alone does not diagnose myocarditis rather than STEMI. So you will have to utilize angiography and echo. So negative echo with global hypokinesia and ST changes will be more in favor of myocarditis, while positive angiography means there is an occlusive disorder with hypokinesia in regional wall involvement and plus ST changes, dynamic ST changes, more in favor of stem. So if you look here, there is a tall T wave, V2, V3, V4, at least these four, you have got clear-cut tall T wave. So always keep it in mind. Hyperacute MI, hyperkalemia, and don't forget to think of early repolarization. So keep hyperkalemia as a differential diagnosis of hyperacute MI. If you get a broad QRS with tall T wave, definitely in favor. And in this broad QRS, you can see that almost P wave has disappeared. There is a widening of QRS complex, and slowly it will become a sine wave. This is hyperkalemia. Very, very clear. Again, very clear. And if suppose you get a pacemaker spike, you can see a pacemaker spike. And this pacemaker spike is not showing any QRS complex. So if a pacemaker spike is missing, always suspect hyperkalemia. One of the clue. So if there is pacemaker spike which is showing you no QRS complex, and some of the QRS complex are wide and almost like a sine wave. You can see this is almost like a sine wave. Do suspect hyperkalemia. So if you get in an implanted pacemaker, that pacemaker is not capturing, that is in favor of hyperkalemia, one of the findings. So this is a broad QRS. Hardly you can make out where is a T wave. T wave has merged almost in QRS complex. This is called sine wave. There is no P wave. Broad QRS with tall T wave. You can see an ST segment. Here you can't make out an ST segment. This is a tall peak T wave. Narrow base, peak, symmetrical with a broad QRS, absence of P wave or prolonged PR interval. So hyperacute T wave, long PR, then absent P wave, wide QRS, ST segment elevation, almost getting merged into T wave, and then you get a sine wave with bradycardia, conduction abnormality, high grade AV block, and later on person goes into asystole and ventricular fibrillation. When you get all these things together in a person without chest pain, always suspect hyperkalemia. So peak T wave, flat P wave, prolonged PR, multiple arrhythmias like AV block, bradycardia, pacemaker failure to capture, wide bizarre QRS complex and sine wave, and person is worsening. It is going for a severe hyperkalemia. You can see abroad, this is sine wave. This is a wide QRS complex. Almost QRS complex is merging with T wave. There is a slight ST segment. And then that ST segment gets merged completely. QRS complex. We call sine wave. And then person will go into VTVF. So this will be in favor of hyperkalemia. This is acute MI. You can see here ST segment elevation in lead 1, AVL, V3, V4, V5, V6, extensive anterior wall, and reciprocal changes in lead 3 and AVF. So 1 year after anterior wall MI. If such things is present, even after the 1 year history of acute MI previously, this will be ventricular aneurysm. Without history, you cannot, or you will have to compare with previous ECG, or you will have to take echo, and if echo shows an abnormal wall motion, an abnormal dilatation of a ventricular wall segment, you will suspect ventricular aneurysm. So ventricular aneurysm, persistent ST segment elevation, small Q wave in lead 2, lead 3 AVF. Very commonly, person can have a VT, and more frequently it will be RBBB morphology. Usually we say that the persistent ST segment elevation After 3 weeks of STEMI, always suspect ventricular aneurysm. And you can confirm. You can see this is an abnormal dilatation of a ventricular chamber. And in this area, you will get hypokinesia. That will be ventricular aneurysm. So, echo becomes very, very useful. And you can see this persistent ST segment elevation even after a long period. So, if you get an ST elevation which is persistent and there is a deep QA or we call QS segment in V1, V2, V3, more commonly it is seen in an anteroseptum. So, that will be in favor of left ventricular aneurysm because of anteroseptal MI. Now, Brugada, very classical. In V1, you will get a curved downsloping ST segment. So, person will have a documented VTVF, family history of sudden cardiac death, VT can be inducible, person will have a history of a syncopal episodes, and if there is an ST elevation more than 2 millimeter in more than one lead of V1 or V2, see ST segment elevation more than 2 millimeter in any one lead, either V1, V2 or V3, it will be in favor of Brugada type 1. This is classical type 1. This is code. While in type 2 and 3, this is type 1. This is type 1. RBBB pattern with ST segment elevation, which is code up, code down. So that will be typical. And when you get saddle type, that is type B, there is one more. Type 3, this is also saddle type. So type 2 and type 3 is saddle type. This is the most common variety, that is code down, ST segment down sloping. So do remember, saddle back is type 2, while down sloping is type 1. And these people are more prone to get VTVF and they can have a sudden cardiac death. Now one more thing, if you get a symmetrical, deep symmetrical inverted T wave without a reciprocal changes, keep one thing in mind, it can be in favor of what we call as subarachnoid hemorrhage or intracranial hemorrhage. This is, you can see there is a facial palsy, and this was the patient of subarachnoid hemorrhage. You can see a deep symmetrical T wave inversion. So prolonged QT, tall U wave, ST changes, symmetrical T wave inversion, quite commonly seen with raised intracranial pressure, subarachnoid hemorrhage, intracranial hemorrhage. You can see symmetrical T wave inversion is more common. Prolonged QT is also another finding, and ST elevation, while U wave appearance is not very common. So it is only in 9%, but sometimes you get T wave inversion with a U wave changes. That is called bizarre T wave inversion along with U wave. This is deep symmetrical T wave inversion, intracranial hemorrhage. Here there is an ST elevation. Very occasionally you get that widespread ST elevation like pericarditis, maybe in a raised intracranial pressure. This is pacemaker complex. You can see a pacemaker complex. And in presence of a pacemaker complex, to identify ongoing ischemia or a myocardial infarction, it is little difficult. But always, if a person is having a persistent chest pain, look for those findings. This is ventricular pace rhythm normal. Here, this is showing you generalized STT changes widespread. You can see in lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. In AVR, there is an ST elevation. In AVL there is an ST elevation, while in AVF there is an ST depression. V1, V2, V3 there is an ST elevation, V4 also. So you get a widespread changes, and if there is an associated history of fever, do suspect myocarditis. Here you can see there is an ST elevation, clear cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also there is in lit 2, lit 3 also, and even in AVF. There is one more condition we call Takotsubo. This is stress induced cardiomyopathy. So I'll put together, if you get ST elevation or ST depression in a widespread leads, not in a regional, no reciprocal changes, no classical reciprocal changes, suspect stress cardiomyopathy, pericarditis, myocarditis, in some cases of cardiomyopathy, subarachnoid hemorrhage. Do keep this thing in mind. These are some of the conditions. So these are some of the conditions where you will have to differentiate from STEMI. This is called also broken heart syndrome. In hypothermia, usually you will have a shivering artifacts, PR will be prolonged, QT interval will be prolonged, QRS complex will be prolonged, and there will be at J wave, you will have a Osborn wave, which is also called as a hump like ST segment elevation, or it is also called as a camel hump wave, and it is one of the J wave syndrome. And these changes you will see more commonly in a chest leads. This is a small photographs, and this is an enlarged picture. You can see this is an R wave, and this is a J point. At a J point you have got an elevation that is called J wave, and this such type of elevation is given a name, Osborn wave. So always keep it in mind. This is hypothermia. So hypothermia will produce bradyarrhythmias, prolonged PR, prolonged QRS, QT interval, shivering artifacts, ventricular ectopic, Osborn wave, which will be a positive deflection at the J wave, and it will be negative in AVR and V1. So AVR and V1 are right precordial lead, so usually it will show you opposite of that. So it will be a negative deflection in AVR and V1, and a height of a Osborn wave is roughly proportional to the amount of hypothermia. So severe the hypothermia, more prominent the Osborn wave. So that is very, very peculiar. So this is Osborn wave. Osborn wave you will get classical in case of hypothermia. You can get also in case of hypercalcemia, and also in case of a raised intracranial pressure, or we call it a head injury. Very rarely normal variant, and some of the drugs. Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome can also produce a little disturbances in diagnosis of STEMI. In Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, it is a broad QRS complex. Person will present with chest pain, shortness of breath, sudden cardiac death will be there in a family, palpitation, syncope, etc. Peculiarity will be there will be short PR interval, QRS complex will be wide, there will be delta wave, that is the ascending part of the R wave will show you delta wave, and in along with this there will be secondary STT changes in the opposite direction of a delta wave. These STT changes can be mistaken as ischemic heart disease. Do pay attention. So you get a short PR, delta wave, and ST changes may be there in a opposite direction. So in a pulmonary embolism or acute coronary syndrome, you have to keep it in mind that in case of a acute coronary syndrome, you will have ST segment elevation or ST segment depression with STT changes in a regional valve. While if you see here, you have got changes in lead 1, lead 2, AVL, you have got a ST elevation in AVR, you have got V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. Whenever you get a widespread STT changes, that is T wave inversion and asymmetrical, always keep it in mind, one of the possibility of acute pulmonary embolism. So inverted T wave, dip symmetrical inverted T wave, sorry, asymmetrical T wave, inverted in multiple leads. See here in V1, V2, V3, V4, yes, multiple leads. Even here you can see lead 3. Here also AVF. Do suspect pulmonary embolism. There is one word utilized, S1, Q3, T3. So if you get S wave in lead 1, you get a small Q wave in lead 3 and T wave inversion in lead 3, always suspect pulmonary embolism. And along with that, you will have a R wave prominent in V1 with ST changes. That is also one of the criteria. So S1, Q3, T3, right axis deviation, quite common in acute pulmonary embolism, along with T wave changes, which are asymmetrical deep inverted T wave. So asymmetrical T wave inversion also in favor of pulmonary embolism. Now here again you can see S1, Q3, T3 pattern with T wave inversion in V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, multiple leads. And you have got a R wave prominent in AVR and V1. Always keep it in mind, acute pulmonary embolism. So asymmetrical T wave inversion, S1, Q3, T3, right axis deviation, RVH pattern, suspect acute pulmonary embolism. Here, S1, Q3, T3 only. There is not much amount of T wave inversion. You have got in V2, in lead 2, lead 3, slightly in AVF, otherwise there are not much amount of. Still, S1, Q3, T3 is enough to suspect. So S1, Q3, T3, almost 97% of the time specificity and sensitivity is 8.5. RBBB pattern is 97% but less than 5% sensitivity. While T wave inversion in V1 to V4 is more important than even RBBB. So always consider T wave inversion. And if there is a cardiogenic shock associated with ST elevation in V1, AVR, suspect, because these are opposite changes, suspect pulmonary embolism. And ST depression in V4 to V6 also in favor of what we call as a pulmonary embolism. ARVD only in V1 you will get an epsilon wave with a deep T wave inversion. So this may be sometimes mistaken as anteroceptor or septor MI. So keep that thing in mind, and this will be seen in V1 and V2. So if you get these changes in V1, V2 and epsilon wave, it is ARVD. So epsilon wave, ARVD. So you've got a T wave inversion in V1 to V3, and this can be mistaken as ischemic heart disease. I'm skipping over these other groups, that is toxicology, ischemia, electrolyte imbalance, dextrocardia, lead reversal, artifacts, pacing spikes, etc. So do go through this. If you get an ST upsloping, very frequently along with tachycardia, it will be tachycardia induced or rate dependent ST depression with upsloping. You can see here, this is severe tachycardia and there is an ST segment depression. So this is rate dependent ST segment depression, ST depression during SVT. And as soon as you treat SVT, you can see here, there is an ST segment depression. So this is atrial fibrillation with rapid ventricular rate. So whenever there is a fast ventricular rate, either with atrial fibrillation with fast ventricular rate or SVT or even sinus tachycardia, there will be ST changes, particularly ST depression, and good number of time it is upsloping, and this as soon as it is treated, this is another where you can see that there is an ST changes. Here there is an ST elevation with ST depression in an anterior chest leads. You can see in V2, V3, V4, V5, V6, while there is an ST elevation in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF. Almost this will be mistaken as an anterior wall MI with reciprocal changes in chest leads. So this is atrial fibrillation with rapid ventricular rate, because RR interval is irregularly irregular. And now if you treat that, see here, once the rate is controlled, atrial fibrillation persists, but ST segment changes which were seen in lid 2, lid 3 and AVF and ST depression which was seen are not seen now. This is what is classical in case of a rate dependent STT changes. Good number of times this is mistaken for what we call as ischemic heart disease and treated as ischemic heart disease. This is one ECG which is very odd ECG, I got it. 36-year woman with chest pain. Now if you look properly, this particular tall T wave will be misdiagnosed as an inferior wall MI, or maybe misdiagnosed as, if there is an ST elevation, it will be early changes of even RVMI. But if you see properly in V3, there is hardly any R wave. This R wave progression should increase. What has happened is V1 and V3 leads are interchanged. This can happen once in a while, so do pay attention. One lead changes may not be significant, but even we have mentioned previously that only change in AVR or only change in AVL or only change in V1 can be suggestive of infarct. So lead reversal between V1 and V3 has happened, and that has produced this V3 lead has gone to V1. So do keep it in mind. So at the end, always obtain an early 12 leads ECG. Look for whether there are STT changes and in how many leads, it is generalized or not. We have already mentioned that if it is generalized in multiple leads, suspect myocarditis, early repolarization syndrome, pericarditis, Takotsubo, cardiomyopathy, catecholaminergic induced tachyarrhythmias. Also in case of any tachycardias, also you will have STT changes. Look for reciprocal changes. If reciprocal changes are absent in presence of ST elevation, it is almost against acute myocardial infarction. And if reciprocal changes are present, it is more in favor of STEM. Don't always rely on computer interpretation. Does interpretation correlate with the history, physical examination, chief complaint, etc. should be checked. Did you take steps to ensure the best possible data available? Always confirm that. Go for a serial ECG to confirm and to always guide the diagnosis. Always communicate the finding with the staff and your person who is taking care of that patient. And always go on learning from the resources which is listed in different presentation. This is the finding. Sometimes you misdiagnose as STEMI, which we call as a killer ECG, that is long QT, short QT, ARVD. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Always look in V1, V2 and V3 leads because it will help you to rule out ARVD, Brugada, long QT, short QT, etc. can be easily diagnosed by just looking at V1, V2, V3. That's why it is also called as money lead. So ARVD, long QT, short QT at your leisure time you can go through. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. All these are important. What finding you can get, WPW syndrome, etc. And this is a quiz for you. I am holding for a while. On your own, try to answer and then see. This is LVH. I am holding for a while. You answer within 10 seconds. This does not fit. This is an artifact. It will be extremely difficult to answer. So have another ECG. This is left bundle branch block. Sorry, it is not left bundle branch block. It is VT. It is VT. And this is showing you concordance. Concordance. VT. This is left bundle branch block. And here, classical ST segment elevation lead to lead 3 AVF with ST segment depression in V1, V2. Yes, V1, V2. And even you have got a slight ST segment elevation in V5 and V6 also. So this is inferolateral. And if you consider this as ST depression, with there is a small R wave, this will be also suggestive of a posterior wall. You should have V7, V8, V9. So this will be infero, posterior and lateral. So it is STEMI. So I end my lecture here. I thank you for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable and I appreciate that you have spent some of the time with me. This is very important lecture because STEMI mimics. They do not require any treatment like thrombolysis or angiography followed by revascularization. Lot of money will be spent and sometimes you can end up with complications also of invasive procedures as well as psychological trauma, mental trauma. And opposite of that, if person is having STEMI and you diagnose as mimics and you don't treat them, person can develop a full-blown myocardial infarction and it can be lethal. So whenever you get an ST elevation or ST depression or a T wave changes, always have a good history, have a serial ECG, look for troponin, take the advantage of echo also, bedside echo can be done. A good history, good physical examination, serial ECG changes will help you to differentiate from STEMI mimics. So I end my lecture here. If you like this lecture, please press button like, go through. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. And you can share with your friends also, whom you feel will be helpful to you. And this will be definitely helpful to all fourth year students, exam going students, and also after passing during your internship as well as if you are working in an ICU. So see you in next lecture.